Updating our big board for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2025 NFL Draft. What has changed since pre-combine? And we're adding more players to the list, where they stack up, where the tiers are for PeaCrock as we head 1 month away from the NFL Draft right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers out there. We appreciate you. Let us know you stop by. If you already subscribed, then hit the thumbs up. Say hi. Let us know you're here. And if you're new to the program, welcome. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you listen to your podcast as we get ready for the 2025 NFL Draft. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. Happy opening day for baseball, Croc. Love this time of year. We get baseball going. San Francisco Giants, big win in game number 1. Comeback win in the 9th inning. And the San Francisco 49ers preparing for the draft. Love this time of year. Love the weather. A little thunderstormy and weird today, but it was a little bit warmer this week. So that's what we're doing here in springtime. We're getting ready for the draft, and it's nice to go outside occasionally, not just look at draft prospects all day on the tube and on the screen and on the phone and everywhere I can watch them. And I'm watching them, trying to break them down and get ready for this draft. So let's start talking about our big board, Croc. And I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen here. So let's just get started because there's a lot to get to. And you showed me actually before we went live, Matt Miller did his 7-round 49ers mock, apparently. And I'm seeing a lot of corners to the 49ers at pick 11. What do you think about that? I was talking with Kyle Madsen today on Twitter about it, and it seems a little odd that, pointing to Charvarius Ward as a reason that you're going to draft a corner when you only have one starting defensive lineman is an odd reason, unless you think that player is that good. But the 49ers don't draft cornerbacks. And so I just think, and look, the NFL draft is crazy, Croc. You can never say never. We're always going to be shocked by something that happens in the NFL draft, but the 49ers have not drafted defensive backs high. They've drafted in 8 years. Shanahan and Lynch have never drafted a DB in the first round. They've drafted one in the top 85 picks, 2 in the top 100, a couple of late 3rd round comp picks and a fourth and some nice 5th round picks, but it's just not a position they've prioritized. And you're going to tell me that they're going to pass on Cooper DeJean at pick 31 last year, and then they're going to draft Jahdae Barron at pick 11 this year? I'm just not buying it, Croc. And we don't have a 40 time yet for the other corner that could possibly go there in Will Johnson, even though we really liked his tape. He's a fit for the 49ers, but we don't even know what kind of 40 time he's going to run. Would he be someone that you would draft over the other players? He would have to be best player available for it to even make sense at that point in the draft at pick number 11. What do you think about corner?
I don't mind it at all. It's not just because I'm a cornerback guy, but
doesn't mind it.
I think that the 49ers haven't drafted a corner high because of just opportunity. Like, how many opportunities have they been in a position really high to draft a receiver high? A cornerback high. There's always been, I don't want to say more pressing needs, but maybe just the best player available at the time of them picking high just wasn't a defensive back. Like, when they liked McGlinchey, I would have drafted Minka Fitzpatrick or even Derwin James, right? But at that time, what corner are they supposed to draft in that spot? Like, Denzel Ward was off the clock, so they couldn't go Denzel Ward. So I think 1 second, my wife threw me all off trying to grab some keys. All right, but see, where was I? My wife threw me off. Anyways, 49ers drafting a cornerback. It's something that 100% they could do. And I don't think that they say, well, our philosophy is not to draft corners high. I think it's just when the opportunity presents itself, will they do it? And in this draft, if guys that we like Mason Graham or, Mimbo's off the clock, or, he's off the board, and all these other guys, and it's like, well, the best player available that we have is a corner, And yet it's not a need, but you can never have enough good defensive backs. And you add Will Johnson to a room where you have Diamador Lenore and Ronaldo Green, who had a really good rookie year. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that. Add good players. Everybody wants to focus on like need. Forget the need. Add good players. And if need meets the best player available at that time you're picking, then yeah, take the need for sure if you have the opportunity. But I wouldn't just disregard a corner. You can always use one.
Looking at our big board, if we were drafting for the 49ers, there would be a possibility that Will Johnson would be one of those potential best player availables at pick number 11 for the San Francisco 49ers. So let's run through some of our latest scouting reports and plug them in. Actually, let's go through what we have first, then plug in the guys that we haven't put into the left side of the board. If you're watching on YouTube, we have two lists here. We have the list on the left, which is our big board. It's color-coded with blue chippers, top 15 guys, sort of first-round picks, top 50 guys, second, third-round types, and then and beyond down there. And then we have another list of guys that we've watched the tape on, and we just haven't plugged them into our big board yet. Anything changed for you at the top? Our two blue chippers, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, in that order? Yeah, I think that's still the same. I'd still, like, if it was today, I would feel more comfortable with Travis Hunter because we know what he is. Abdul Carter still hasn't, we don't even have a height, weight, nothing on him yet. And I believe tomorrow is Penn State's pro day. So, 6'3", 250, 34-inch arms. Okay, he's number one. Yeah. Now, if he shows up at the same size as, like, Jalen Walker did, 6'1" and 240 something, and shorter arms, it's like, you might be able to talk me into Travis Hunter as the number one guy just because there's less projection there. And again, this is a guy who doesn't show a ton of power on tape and is a one-dimensional sort of a speed rush player. And he's phenomenal at that, but you just want to feel better and check more boxes probably if you're going to draft him that high. And there is potential in the same tier to have somebody because that's what the tiers are for. These guys are rated somewhat similar. So right now we've got Abdul Carter out of Penn State, edge rusher number one, Travis Hunter number two. They're not going to get down to the San Francisco 49ers. Just about anybody else could, though, Croc. The next group is our likely candidates for the 49ers at pick 11, I think, at least as we see this thing. And that starts with Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. You've talked about maybe those three players being the only ones you would be willing to trade up for in this draft, and the guys with that much talent. And Mason Graham still hasn't stuck the landing quite yet on what he is as a prospect. It was a little bit bigger at Michigan's pro day, but still has some sort of a heel injury, and he hasn't run yet. And the spring wasn't going to be super kind to Mason Graham, so he may slip a little bit on some boards. We still like him. We love the tape. Do it all defensive tackle. We like Josh Simmons a lot. Knowing more about his injury and then now seeing him work out again since knowing more about the injury, I don't know what to think about Josh Simmons. He's got the red flag asterisk because of the injuries, but we've got him number 4. Is he somebody that you would just straight up move down behind maybe some of the other offensive tackles, some of the other players, put him in a different tier just because of the uncertainty of his injury right now?
I like him a lot. I mean, and without knowing the medicals, and we've reported a little bit on it and the injury and kind of the history of it, and not just the history of the injury with the San Francisco 49ers, that does make you worry a little bit. But man, he's so talented. And you just watch him at left tackle. It's like, man, he's a left tackle all day, every day. So how would this injury, kind of develop? I keep thinking of Simmons, the other Simmons, the defensive tackle for that Tennessee Titans drafted.
Yep.
And he tore his ACL or ruptured his Achilles, like during training or something.
I don't remember what the injury was, but yeah, the Titans went out on a limb and still drafted him later in the first round. And it was a huge hit and a huge success. And then guess what? They did it again the next year with Caleb Farley. And that was a whiff. So they showed both sides of that. And they're like, oh, man, they got a little brave with it. They're like, this is awesome. Let's do it again. That one didn't work out quite as well.
Right. So, those are two examples right there where, if you don't, you can't miss a shot that you don't take.
Right. And I think that's exactly what Josh Simmons is right now. I think that's the range he's going to go in. He's going to go in the later first round, but he's too good to go too much further past that. But he's probably too rich here. So for us, this is how we graded him on tape. I'm going to leave him there, but he's got the red flag asterisk, which means we'd probably go elsewhere at this point. And so I'm just going to leave him there and do that with him. And it's going to be the same with Mike Green. He's got off-field stuff that, not comfortable with, but he would be a pick for me at 11 for sure with his ability to rush the passer. I think he's a phenomenal prospect. But again, red flags, probably off the board to pick number 11 with those two players, but I'm going to leave him right where our grades had him. After Josh Simmons, Armand Membo, who has moved up, I just feel a lot more comfortable with him as a pure tackle because of his measurables, and he had really good tape, not amazing tape. I think we liked Will Campbell's tape better, but I think the measurables are better, and the projection to offensive tackle better for Armand Membo. We've got him one spot ahead of Will Campbell. Are you still okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am still okay with that. I do really like Will Campbell.
Yeah.
There's a 33-inch, 32 and 5/8. I don't know, but is it a little bit more encouraging that he just, at least on paper right now, hit the 33-inch?
No, that doesn't change anything because it's still at the very, very, very lowest end, even if it's 33, and you see it on tape too, and that's kind of the thing. So I know he said that arm length doesn't matter, doesn't make you a bad player, and he's right. It doesn't make you a bad player, but it might make you a guard. And that's just the reality of the situation. And it is on tape too. That's not something that people brought up at the combine. People been talking about that. And you see him go against some longer armed offensive or defensive lineman that's giving him some problems. And it happens. There's a reason for it. I'm a believer in that. But Will Campbell's still in our top 6. No quarterbacks are ranked here for us with the 49ers specific big board. The next player for us is Walter Nolan, man. And again, there's some character stuff, some maturity. He plays hard. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass. He's twitched up. Maybe he goes later. I see he's still in the second round for mocks, even for the 49ers. And he's there at 43. Yeah, I'm all about it. But I think he's a first round guy all day. Talent wise, is there something keeping him from that? Something that I'm not privy to, but there's some.
So I talked about the Matt Miller, his mock draft that he did for the 49ers. And I want to say he had the 49ers taking Will Johnson at 11. And then he had the 49ers taking Walter Nolan in the second round. And there was an overwhelming response, at least in my mentions, that there's no way he makes it to the second round. And Peacock continues to let everyone know, whatever you think the craziest thing you've seen in the mock, it doesn't compare to what we'll see in the actual draft. And for guys like whether it's Walter Nolan or even like plenty of other guys, sometimes social media is higher on players than the NFL. So that's not me saying that, Walter Nolan will 100% go second round, but you'll never hear me be the person to say, oh, there's no way Nolan goes in the second round. You start hearing certain things and character, how he work ethic and all these other things. And, or, hey, maybe we just on film think he's more of a day 2 type guy. And there have been a lot of people that have evaluated film and say, hey, I only have 12 first rounders in this class. I only have 15 first rounders. So if that's the case, what's going to separate him from some of the other guys that are considered day 2 guys?
All right, more from our big board. We're going to start plugging in some other players. I don't think there's any top 10 guys that we haven't listed yet, at least for me. Maybe there is for you, Croc, as we put some more names onto the list and stack up the rest of our 49ers big board for the 2025 NFL draft as PeaCrock sees it next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before, because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. And it is so easy with FanDuel. The app is awesome, easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around, and tournament games are happening almost every day. There's Major League Baseball now that's going to be happening every single day, all the way into fall. And of course, those NFL draft props. So visit FanDuel.com right now or download the app and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. That is FanDuel.com. All right. We're sticking with our board. I like this. We haven't made too many changes here, but we're going to have to add some folks to the list here in a second. And so after Walter Nolan, we got Mike Green. Again, asterisk. I don't think he's going to be a pick for the 49ers there, but he's a first-round guy all day. I love that he went to his pro day and had a sub 7-second 3-cone, a fantastic short shuttle. I mean, and you just see it. He's water downhill. He's the best pass rusher in this class from a pure pass rush perspective. Only Abdul Carter's just got more dynamic juice off the edge. Then Luther Burton and Tet McMillan, two players we really liked on tape, two players that seem to be falling, kind of like Walter Nolan. I don't know why exactly. Tet McMillan, 4.53-ish in the 40, which is fine for me. He's a T. Higgins style of player. Luther Burton, I think, a phenomenal fit for Kyle Shanahan. More, whispers about potential. And like, look, I've been a hiring manager at places before. You can sit across the table from a guy and be like, I do not want to work with this person every single day, right? So the character stuff does weigh for teams, and they're just like, don't like him. I'm not drafting him, or I'm at least not drafting him here. So, you hear some whispers. Sometimes it matters. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you want your players to have a little bit of an edge, and what that report is makes that player great. So sometimes it's a good thing that a player has a little edge. Sometimes it's a cliff that they have more than just a little bit of an edge. So it's hard to really speak on all of that. This is how we see it right now. Luther Burton, Tet McMillan, and then Will Johnson next. What does Will Johnson need to run for you when he finally does run here at the end of the month, Croc, for you to be like, okay, yeah, I'll take him at 11?
I'm just running the 4.4s.
4.4. So 4.49. That's the cap. Okay.
Ideally you like 4.45 or better, but
yeah.
If he runs 4.7, 4.47, that's still all right. You can run. Got to remember too, though. I don't think all these are laser timed at these combines. Some of them we're seeing a lot of hand time, so that may boost it up a little bit. So you definitely want to see probably 4.47 or better.
Yeah, probably closer to 4.45. You're right, because that 4.49 could be a lot different at the combine potentially. You don't always trust the thumbs and the fingers. In fact, I think they usually use the pointer finger. It's a little bit quicker than the thumb, from what I understand, with the stopwatch. Next, we've got Tyler Warren. This is kind of moving on to another tier of prospect, and probably the guys that we like, more of a trade down scenario. Who knows, maybe even a trade up from the second round players, Croc, that we like, but maybe would be as excited to draft at pick number 11. Those players are Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, Kelvin Banks, tackle from Texas, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan, James Pierce, edge rusher from Tennessee, Jihad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama, Malachi Stark, safety from Georgia, and Jalen Walker, edge from Georgia. Since the combine, I feel like Jalen Walker's in the right place, but also for the 49ers, just not quite a fit for what kind of a player he is. I think he's strictly going to be for those odd front stand-up rusher teams. I don't know if he's the right guy for the 49ers as a pure defensive end, and he's probably not right as a pure off-ball linebacker either. So I'd probably move him back a tier, but I still think the player is right, and I like the player a lot, just a bad fit for the Niners.
Yeah. Jalen Walker, I think he's a guy that may go really high, where maybe people didn't see that quite happening, and he's not being talked about in the top 10. But there's always going to be a little bit of shakeup, and for my money, if there will be a shakeup, I think it'd be with Jalen Walker going in the top 10. When a lot of people aren't quite talking about that.
Our next group of guys here are players that we'd be looking at probably in the second round for the San Francisco 49ers if they get there. Some of these guys absolutely will not get there, and it starts with number 19 on our list, which is Gray Zabel, the center from North Dakota State. Then Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher from Boston College. Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. He's not going to, basically, you dock around to all the running backs, in my opinion. So all these guys that are going to go in the first or second round, I'd be like, yeah, take them if they're there in the third round, right? Travion Henderson, if he's there in the third, I'd be into it. I don't think he's going to be. We got to put those guys on our list, by the way, the other 4 running backs that we've done deep dives on. You got Shamar Stewart, defensive end from Texas A&M, Michael Williams, defensive end from Georgia. Both of those guys, they scare the dickens out of me because I just don't love the pass rush package that they've provided, despite all of their physical traits. Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan. You got Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon. You got Jahdae Barron, defensive back from Texas. I say defensive back because some people say he's a corner. I think he's a nickel or a safety, in my opinion, and could be a darn good one. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon, and then Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. Those are the names of the players that we have and put on our big board. Do you feel any differently now than when we stacked those players on our big board, Croc? And why are we so far off from Jahdae Barron? He's a player I see go to the 49ers at 11. And you were watching him and you're like, oh, wow. People are talking about him as a first-round guy. You were seeing him like, oh, this is for sure like a day 2 player.
I thought he was definitely a day 2, but, I think, he has some length to him. We watched what he ran. He ran very well. He's tested extremely well. And I think for people that already had him really high, that just made them like him even more. I'm surprised he's not being talked about in the top 10 the way they discuss him, but the film didn't quite match up with what they're saying. And maybe a lot of it had its scheme, right? It's just harder for us to see it with just how they utilized him at Texas. Maybe he has a ton of ability and they've seen it in whether, having them work out, going to practices because scouts are there. And we're not privileged to that kind of film. So that could swing it the way that I feel like it is going right now in the media. But yeah, we weren't as high on him watching them. And unless you tell me he's a safety. Now, if you're telling me a safety, then I love all of his attributes.
That's what he is. To me, he's a nickel and a safety. So, I mean, I'd be shocked if he goes in the top 10, 11 picks, but I've seen him creep in there in mock drafts. The league told us what they think about nickels and safeties, and they draft them later. And Cooper DeJean goes in the second round, pick 40. Brian Branch goes pick 45. Johnny Barron, a better prospect than those guys? I don't think so. He's maybe right in there with those guys, but I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see the Johnny Barron. And it's odd that I think the biggest strength for both of the top corners in this class that we've talked about with Johnny Barron, there's some others that we're going to get to, and Croc's really chomping at the bit. And I think secretly behind the scenes, he's been watching a lot of cornerbacks. We're going to have to throw them on our list pretty soon here. I think we need to look more at the mid-round guys for the 49ers. But Johnny Barron and Will Johnson, they fit best as zone type corners in the NFL. That's rare. Usually it's like, who are the man guys? Those are the guys that get drafted high.
Well, because man ability is just the toughest thing to just teach. Coach, especially at that level, right? Like high school, yeah, you can, knock some bad habits out of a guy and coach him up and get it right. NFL level, you kind of are what you are, but you can continue to teach zone. So that's why I typically lean towards guys who have terrific man coverage skills. And then, all right, let me teach him zone ability with understanding concepts and where his eyes should be, reading his keys. But yeah, like you said, with these guys, these are two guys that play a lot of off. Now, Johnson did do a lot of kind of zone matching type stuff. So it kind of turned into man for him. Maybe they're accounting for that as man, but no, you're right. The two off coverage type guys that will be going hot.
All right, next, Croc, let's throw some more names on the list. Let's stack our latest scouting reports, our latest group of players that we have scouted and looked at, and stack them onto our board where we think we like them. And we're starting to get a pretty good picture of what things might look like for the 49ers in rounds 1 and 2 on the PeaCrock Locked On 49ers draft board. Next. Okay, Croc, let's get back to our defensive backs here. Nick Emanwari, the combine legend, and Xavier Watts, instinctive deep safety. Where do you like them as far as rankings go? What tier would you put them in? And then we'll try to get them in the right place.
Oh, man, I think both of those guys were terrific safeties in their own rights and different. You got one guy that's just really big, but, man, smooth mover. Then you have Xavier Watts, who has the takeaways, was it 12 interceptions over like the last 2 years or so.
Yep.
And for me, I'm a big take the ball away type of guy, and he's shown some ability to play man. And so Nick, obviously the freakier specimen, and made plays as well, multiple pick six, 4 interceptions in the season. But I lean more towards Watts. And I like Watts, really. I mean, maybe and Nick and Emanwari, I think they should probably be higher than some of the guys that we do have, a little bit lower.
Like you taking them over,
Derek Harmon, and I like them more than Barron.
Okay.
I probably would have them over Colston, Loveland, and I like Loveland more than you did. But I'd say they're kind of in that range.
Okay, so you like Watts a lot. Watts is a big one for you, and I think he's a player that might be there for the 49ers at pick 43. You'd be okay with that one?
Oh, yeah. I really liked Watts.
Okay. So you would put him over Loveland. The Shamar Stewart, Michael Williams is a tough one because I'm clearly going to be lower than them on a lot of people are. But at some point, it's like, man, if Shamar Stewart's there in the second round, you almost got to take that swing, right? So I don't know. So we put it right behind those two guys then?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put him right in there. And you like him back to back? You like Watts more than Eman Wari?
I like Watts more than Eman York. But again, I like them. I think they're got a little bit different, but I like them.
For the fit, what the 49ers need is a deep safety, instinctive guy that can take the ball away. So that's why I like Xavier Watson. I think he's more likely to be there for the 49ers anyway. So I think he's just the better fit and the more likely player. Let's look at these defensive tackles here. We have Tyleik Williams, Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, Alfred Collins, Omar Norman Lott to be added to the list. I would rank them with TJ Sanders above Alexander. And then the other three, I think, are more third roundish types. Would you fight me on that?
No, not at all.
Do you like Tyleik Williams or TJ Sanders better? Two completely different guys. One's the nose, one's the 3-tech.
I liked Williams more, but I think I'm kind of alone on that. When I look at social media and people, discussing our conversation.
Did you like?
Now, I would have what's called higher though. Ivy. I like him.
You liked Ivy more than both of them.
Yeah.
What about Scorton?
Yeah.
We like Scorton more. So yeah, Scorton's the first one that's of this group that's going to go on the list for us here.
Yeah.
Is he better than his teammate at Texas A&M, Shamar Stewart? I mean, he's a better football player. He's a better football player. So you're betting on the traits if you want Shamar Stewart.
Yeah. Football player. Yeah. And obviously it was, Shamar Stewart doesn't have the production. Right. What is it? 4 career sacks.
Yeah. 1.5 every.
Yeah, that's a little worse. And not saying that everybody just has to be these amazing, sack artists. And we've seen a lot of Georgia guys not put up huge sack numbers, but I just need a little bit more production than 4 career sacks.
I totally agree. All right. So we're going to put him up
Terrific
here.
traits. That reminds me of Bill that the Niners drafted. Like, freak athlete. Just not very good.
Right. Yeah. How's he different than that? I totally agree. That's a good point. All right. We got Scorton on the list. And you like Jared Ivey more than all the tackles, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he going? He's probably going a little bit further down, though. He'd be after Derek Harmon, right? You like Shamar Stewart more than, you like Nick Scorton more than Derek Harmon? Should we look at Derek Harmon again? Because we seem to be much lower on him, too. Barron and Harmon were much lower on than just about everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of, as of right now, we haven't been top 30, top 32. So
that's true. There's some missing players and missing positions, I think, that'll stack in there. A couple quarterbacks. So maybe we'll do another cluster buster episode and take a look at some players and see how we feel about them upon second watch. So we got Tyleik. Oof, that's tough for me. These guys are all going to go right in here. TJ Sanders. I like TJ Sanders more, but I'm going to give you the nod here, and we'll put Tyleik Williams one spot ahead of TJ Sanders there. Okay. Oladejo, I watched and you did not. I think
I did not watch
he's a work in progress. And I didn't like Landon Jackson much. Croc, you didn't like Landon Jackson much either. I might like Oladejo a little bit more just because I think he's not as weird of an athlete. There's something wrong with the way that Landon Jackson moves that prevents him from being the player that I think a lot of people would want him to be based on his combine workout. Oladejo, though, has a long way to go. He's a really raw edge prospect, former off-ball backer, and there's just something awkward about the way he rushes the passer. He's not quite there yet. I see people put him in the second round. I just don't think he's there. So these two guys for me are going in a different pool a little further down in this probably round 3, 4, 5 range. By the way, I already put Fannin and Scatabo on the list down here. Sorry for Cam Scatabo fans. He's in my round 4 or 5.
They're not going to like that.
No, and in fact, these guys are all going to go probably ahead of him as well. Harold Fannin, by the way, the first 30 visit for the 49ers confirmed. Harold Fannin.
And the Cam Scatabo, I think a lot of times early in the draft process, there is this kind of heat wave of loving a certain player. I think it's kind of dying off a little bit. I think it went from like, you got to have him to like, Scalabo's a decent running back.
I like, I did that in the wrong order because I like, we got to move some things around here. I'm going to put him down here, and then I'll fix the list later. Omar Norman Lott is going ahead of both Landon Jackson, and actually he's probably going to go at the very top of this list for me. He's I'd probably put him right there with Harold Fannin. We're going to have to hammer that one out. Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins, another one everyone loves. People are super mad about my scouting report on Alfred Collins, Croc, and I only watched him. You did not. So we're going to have to go back over that one, and you can tell me what you think of Alfred Collins and actually Darius Alexander, right? Because he was on our list, and I watched him and you didn't. So I'm going to put him down here in an area where I don't love him, and you tell me if I'm wrong on Alfred Collins. I don't think he's a fit at all for the San Francisco 49ers. What to do with the rest of the running backs here, Croc? And that'll finish up all the players that we've done our scouting reports on so far. And there's a lot more to come. And by the way, you can let us know in the chat, let us know in the socials and in the comments on YouTube what players we need to look at next, what you think we're way off on and we need to take another peek at. Omarion Hampton, Trayvon Henderson, Quinshawn Judkins, Caleb Johnson. Is that the order for those 4 running backs?
This one is tough because I feel like people are all over the place on these backs. You know, Caleb Johnson, I think just watching him, I was maybe the most impressed with him, but then he didn't test the best. So that's tough. And you just have to take that into account. Like, that's just a part of the process.
Right. But that just means if you do like him, you could probably get him an area like, later than maybe you thought watching him at Iowa during the season. He just doesn't have any wiggle on the second level either. It's like, and he can go get it, but what he gets is what he gets, right? He doesn't have the top speed, doesn't have wiggle. He's not going to make a lot of moves in the open field. And for that reason, even though he's a good fit and I think he's going to be a good player, you might be able to get him a little later. And he's probably one of the more likely players to end up being on the 49ers because you don't have to get him early. And I think all these other guys are going to be gone before pick 75. If Trayvon Henderson somehow is there, like, that's Shanahan's guy, man.
Omarion Hampton, watching him, I mean, just right away, the person, the name, the player that jumped out was DeMarco Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not shocked, but it was like, wow, like it's not a Eric Crocker thing. Like once I posted that to social media, a lot of people posted kind of their takes on him and it was like DeMarco Murray. Like everybody felt like he ran like DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray was terrific and he was a lot to deal with during his time with the Dallas Cowboys. So if he turns out anything like Murray and he tested well, that's a running back. I like Hampton as well.
So that's our progress on our updated Locked On 49ers big board for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2025 NFL draft. Let us know what you think. What players do we need to go back to work on if you think we're off on some of these? And what players are do we need to watch next? And I know there's a ton of them. We see here Jordan Phillips, CJ West, Aeneas Peebles. They're on the list. There's some defensive tackles we got to see. There's part of the big board you can't see, which is our watch list of guys. And then there's a whole bunch of names on there. As Kenny points out here, Henderson, not only speed, not only a great fit in that wide zone, he's actually a mean pass protector as well. Can catch the ball.
Like a lot of them were.
Yeah,
I felt like a lot of these backs were like good pass protectors.
Yeah, and could catch the ball. Like they were a lot of these top backs, a lot of years are kind of nothings in the passing game, especially with what the college systems are giving the NFL. These guys all have some value in the passing game too. And so that's why a lot of them might go high and they might go too high for my taste. Will they go too high for Kyle Shanahan's taste? Even though he still has Christian McCaffrey and last year's 4th rounder, Isaac Guerrero. I mean, I would hope he doesn't draft a running back in the first couple of rounds, even though, some of these guys are good. They're good players. You don't fade running backs. It's not their talent is not the reason they're faded on my boards. All right. That's it. That's a peek at our big board. Not a finished product quite yet. More names to be added, more players to put in the different buckets in the different rounds. But that's how PeaCrock sees it as of March 27th, 2025. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're subbed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I will be back next time, getting close to that April 1st date. Will Brandon Ayuk remain a 49er next week? We'll find out. Talk to you then right here. Locked On 49ers.